Alright, welcome back to another episode of Aselia the Eternal. This one is quite a bit simpler than the last mission, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. The last mission was a lot of fun, but it definitely wore me out. So I'm going to go ahead and just retry this so we can start from the beginning here. This doesn't really seem to matter, unless there's something that I'm doing wrong in this mission. I'm not sure. But the enemies in this mission seem to behave the exact same way as the previous mission, so... But we did get a lot of ether during the war with Malorgan. They're not that bad. They're the exact same spirits as normal. There's just a lot of them. Oh boy! And then a final level up from last mission ends up being really important because we get Fury, which gives us another very hard-hitting attack that can attack supporters directly. She is very strong. Okay. So, the reason why I had to go and redo the last couple of turns of the previous mission is because, like I said in that video, we do not have enough time to build an ether jump facility from scratch during this mission and still make the SS rank turn requirement. It takes 17 turns in total to recruit this engineer if we start on turn 1, and the SS rank requirement is 16 turns. So we had to do this last turn, or last mission instead. That's going to be the big thing. The other big thing that we need to worry about is that there's a dragon that we can fight, and this is our last mission to fight it, so we're going to do that now as well. So, okay. Real basic ground level. This mission is not particularly difficult. Similar to last mission, the challenge is going to be, how do you get everything that this mission has to offer to you while still making good time, right? If you remember in the last mission, the challenge there was not how do we make it to Malorgan. The challenge was how do we capture everything that we can on all 3 paths and be maximally effective, defeat all the enemy formations, get all the trainers, get all the engineers, etc. That's what made this mission difficult. This mission is difficult in a similar vein. The big difference here is that we only have one path to go through, so it's just a matter of knowing where to divert our resources rather than having to, jump back and forth and have every formation on every path the way we did last mission. So That being said, there's a couple of things that we want to do. We also want to start prepping for the next mission. There are several mana crystals that become available starting this mission, but we don't have to get until later on in the game. So we're going to start building a lot of ether jump facilities, and we're going to start building ether converters in order to start capitalizing on these resources that are available to us. So first thing that we're going to do, we're going to build an ether jump client in Elsao with EO. Now, the reason for this is because we already have an ether jump client in Rosario, but because we have to go to Rosario in order to trigger this dragon to spawn. But we have to go to Elsao in order to trigger a mana crystal to spawn all the way down here. I believe it's down here. So we need to have an ether jump client in both cities. Io and Yotia are by far the most efficient engineers that we have right now. The next most efficient engineer, if we look at it, takes 26 turns instead of 10 turns to build an ether jump client. So we're going to rely on Yotia and Io to build our ether jump clients, and then we're going to kind of just build our other stuff wherever else we want to, right? I'm also going to use Acadia to build an ether converter, a level 5 ether converter, because we have a lot of mana waiting around, right? So we want to start trying to actually convert a lot of and harness a lot of these resources, and we're going to start getting more resources as well, right? So if you see, we have very little ether, but we have a lot of mana, and so we want to start converting that mana into ether so that we can use it, obviously. The last mission in particular was a huge jump in the amount of mana that we were getting compared to the previous missions, and that's going to continue as we move through these final couple of missions before we reach the end of the game. So we're building an ether jump client in Elsao with Io. We've already been building an ether jump client in Hiel and Chileta with Iotia. And we're now building an ether converter in Malorigan, just to take advantage of the resources that we have, right? As these units start to finish their constructions, they're going to immediately be cycled into new constructions in other parts of the map, I should say, in order to be as efficient as possible. There's not really going to be a good time to get these resources, so we're just going to have to sort of make a good time to get these resources. As far as formations, here we're going to be using Nelly, Halion, and Nanadu. We're going to be using Yuto, Udoka, and Aselia. Himika, Nimthor, and Shia, and Celia, Asperia, Orpha. I'll talk a little bit about the strategy for the dragon, but just know that we're going to be really utilizing Formation 1 and Formation 2 in the first couple of turns here, because those are going to be the characters that go out to fight the dragon, so we can afford to kind of abuse them right now because they're going to have multiple turns in town to heal back up. And you'll see that here. We're going to defend here with F1. It doesn't really matter, but we're going to defend with F1 because we can. Impulse Blow 2, Accurate Block 3, and Flame Shower. Just to kind of do... We're going to take a big hit here, but we're going to do a lot of damage in return as well. I will talk about my methodology for how I picked these units in a couple seconds here. It's pretty straightforward, but I'll walk you through it. Nanadu is still doing a lot of damage, even though she's several levels below the next lowest level unit that we have. Although I guess I could probably start training Hellion again. I don't know if I did something wrong. I have not unlocked All-Rounders as a combat class, or as a unit type. I'm not sure when we gain access to that. And then we're going to defend here with F2. Halion is not strong enough to take another hit, so we're going to defend with F2 here. And we're going to do AUY. We're just going to use the strongest attacks that we have here. The reason why we're doing it this way is because Utica can do damage as a supporter, whereas Yuto can't. And Aselia does not need help killing these units. Again, we're not worried about these units taking damage, because these units are going to be out of the fight immediately after this for the next several turns. So we're just trying to maximize the amount of damage that we deal to the enemy, while obviously not dying ourselves. And you'll see what I mean when I talk about that. Because these enemies are attacking us, they actually don't get any value out of Harvest, which is actually quite nice. It allows us to be pretty efficient with the way that we deal damage here. It is possible, with Passion, Aselia would have killed that defender, but it doesn't matter, so, you know, again, we'll just stick with the strategy. This mission in particular, I'm not super worried about optimizing, because we need... excuse me. There's a certain period of time where we need to wait, so there's no reason to rush, if that makes sense. Alright, so turn 2 here. We're going to attack with F1. Same thing. Although it's kind of a waste, we do need Nanadu to use her ability here, otherwise that unit would kill Hallian. And then we're going to attack with F2 here. We're going to have Utica defend, we're going to keep Fury on Aselia, and we're going to keep Passion on Yuto. Even with Passion's debuff, Utica can survive this hit, just barely. So again, this is safe. Ashon! And believe it or not, Aselia can one-shot this attacker, so it doesn't matter. That's almost 3,000 damage in a single hit. Okay, we're going to swap Himika with Celia, and we're going to attack with F4. We're doing this so that we have 2 blue spirits in this formation. We're going to attack with F4, Power Strike 2, and Fireball, just to kill this green spirit here. Orpha, interestingly, despite having... also has a massive model, I just noticed, even though she's like supposed to be really small, she has a massive model. Orpha is kind of interesting because she really doesn't have the ability to attack supporters. That's kind of her one oversight, in addition to just not being able to attack at all in the attacker role. But that's neither here nor there. For Formation 3 and 4, this is a little bit of a marathon, so we do need to be conscientious about the way that we use the units in Formation 3 and Formation 4 specifically. And then we move Formation 3 south. We're going to have a continuation battle come up here. We're going to defend with Formation 3. We're going to use Shia here. With Impulse Blow 2, we're going to use Accurate Block 5, because this enemy attacker is relatively weak, only doing 400 damage, and we're going to use Ice Banisher 3. Shia being able to just murder this red spirit means that for the next, however many rounds of combat it takes to clear this enemy formation, is going to be really, really neutered, because this red spirit is by far the most dangerous aspect of this formation. which was kind of true in the last mission as well. I mean, the Heaven Sword enemies are also kind of difficult, but the red spirits really throw a wrench in things because it means that you're often having to choose between doing good defense versus doing good offense. He does about 2,000 damage, so he does more than enough there. And then we're going to move this to... We're going to start using Formation 4 here. Because they're attacking us, we actually can choose between two different formations for this continuation battle, which is quite nice. And because they no longer have a red spirit, we can afford to be really, really greedy here. I'm going to use Double Swing. Again, this is kind of a marathon rather than a sprint, so we just have to be careful. And I'm going to use Inferno. And I'm going to use Absolute Block, or Accurate Block 5, because it blocks twice, so we just don't take a bunch of damage from this attacker. Asperia's ability to only really block one hit per round of combat is a little bit of a weakness, but she is still probably our best defender at this point, because of just her raw stats. Although I think Yuto still gives her a good run for her money, because he can be used in any role, so he can kind of just take a hit, and then if you need to, you can rotate him out. Yuto's versatility is definitely his biggest selling point. And we just barely don't kill either of these, which is fine. And then we're going to do something a little bit interesting here. This enemy is not going to have another chance to attack, or they're going to only be able to attack once, so Himika can take this hit, which is nice. Make sure we switch to Flame Shower here, which will allow us to kill this enemy, and then we can up this enemy so Asperia can kill them on the backswing, on the follow-up attack. I'm going to make another backup save after this, just so I don't make any mistakes. This, again, none of these missions are especially challenging, but there's a little bit of, I kind of have to use my abilities in a kind of precise way, so I imagine it's quite easy to make mistakes here. There is almost certainly a way to do this mission where you are training for the first couple of turns, but I didn't think that that was necessary. She just barely beats this black spirit, but now Asperia can kill this blue spirit on the follow-up attack as well. And then we're going to defend with F3 again, which is going to be Shia, Nimthor, and Aselia in the exact same, because this is basically the exact same formation as last one, so exact same considerations here. But it's not a continuation battle. Let's see. Actually, this is our backup save right here. It's 12:59. Okay, so just talk about real quickly the strategy here. As we make it closer to this base here in the wall, a bunch of all-rounder formations are going to pop up, right? It's going to be single enemy formations. I also know that in order to defeat the dragon, I need to have a green spirit. My strategy here is to take the characters that I think are going to be less useful here and more useful when fighting the dragon, and using them early on here to clear out these first groups of enemies. And you can see that we've sort of desynced a little bit. Formation 1 and Formation 2 are behind Formation 3 and Formation 4. These characters are also significantly weaker at this point because they've used a lot of their strongest attacks and they've taken a lot of pretty big hits. So that really works out in our favor. Our strategy, our formation to defeat the dragon is going to be Utica, Yuto, and Hallian, right? Hallian's our best healer. What we really need when fighting the dragon is healing. And then Yuto and Utica are both very bulky and do good damage, as well as being able to tank. So I can rotate those 3 units around as I need to in order to keep everybody alive against the dragon, right? Because all of these enemies down here are going to be single enemy formations, Nanadu is going to be significantly less effective. And while Aselia is very strong, we've already used her strongest attacks here in order to kill these enemies quickly. And Nelly is probably our weakest blue spirit, so that's why I've chosen to swap these units out. You could have definitely made a case for Himika, but I think Himika's ability to do damage as a supporter is still very useful. So this is what I ultimately ended up going with, and it gave me plenty of time to do all the things that I needed to do. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to move Formation 1 and Formation 2 up north, because I need them to start moving quickly, right? We're already on turn 3, and by turn 5, the Ether Jump facility in Hell and Shaletta will be available. So we need to, on turn 4, jump to Rakios, and then on turn 5, jump back. So this is, again, precisely the right turn that we need in order to start moving forward. We're also going to swap Celia with Himika here, back to the way things were before, and we're going to start working our way down here. We're not necessarily crunched for time. We're going to have 2 or 3 turns where we're just sort of waiting, but we do want to do this efficiently if we can. So I'm going to attack with F4, which is going to be SEO. We're going to be using Fury, Absolute Block 5, and Flame Shower. Part of the consideration was that I really could only afford to take 2 blue spirits, because I really wanted the red spirits and I could only keep 2 formations. I felt like between Shia and Celia and Aselia, with the enemies in particular that I was trying to fight, Aselia is very useful, but she's also very honest. She's very straightforward, right? She attacks the defenders first. She follows the normal targeting paradigm, right? Whereas Celia and Shia both have the ability to bypass the defender, which is very, very useful just in general, but for this mission in particular as well. And we're going to attack with Formation 3 here, as you might expect. We've weakened up this attacker, so we're going to use Leap Attack 2, we're going to use Leap Accurate Block 5, and we're going to use actually Lightning Fire here to do a big hit of damage to this blue spirit. Because it's a blue spirit, it's not going to take as much damage from Lightning Fire as a green spirit would, but it's still going to take a big chunk of damage here. Basically, I decided that I felt like Shia and Celia were more useful in this mission than Aselia was, and since I could only keep 2, I ended up using Aselia to sort of brute force some of the earlier formations. And think you'll kind of see what I mean when we get to some of these other enemies. Aselia and Shia's ability to do big damage to enemies that aren't defenders is actually very important for this strategy. We're going to defend with formation 4 here, which is going to be OES, because this enemy really doesn't have very much health left. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Orpha Attack Super. And Aselia really doesn't need very much healing, so we're just going to leave things the way that they are right now. And we're just going to use Orpha to do chip damage on this unit. See, she has a massive model compared to the other units. Her head is ginormous. I don't know why I never actually noticed that, but it's, she's a big girl. Anyway, it's unusual that we get a chance to basically kill an enemy with chip damage with Orpha, so we'll take advantage of that when we can. And then we're going to defend with formation 3 here, which is going to be Shia, Nimthor, and Himika. We're going to use Impulse Blow 2, because this is an all-rounder, and we're going to use Lightning Fire 1, because, again, Lightning Fire is the biggest, one of our highest damaging attacks in the game, period, and this is a green spirit, so it's going to absolutely just murder this unit. Impulse Blow 2 doesn't do very much damage here, but we want to save the utility of Leap Attack 2 if it's necessary, and obviously we don't want to use Fury, because Fury is better than Impulse Blow 2, and we really just don't need it for this fight. But you'll see what I mean here. Himika basically just does all the damage by herself at this point. Himika has consistently been a very good unit. From the moment you get her to even now, I mean, she's been extraordinarily strong. But you're going to see here, she's going to do 2,500 damage all by herself with one attack. Actually, she did quite a bit more than that. She did about 3,300 damage. And then we're going to defend with F4, which is going to be SEO, Impulse Blow 2, and Lightning Fire 1. This is another green spirit. Orpha doesn't do quite as much damage as Himika does, but she still does quite a bit. And because she goes twice, you know, she can clean up the enemies. They end up doing about the same amount of damage, actually. Look at all those juicy enemies, those juicy mana packets waiting to be slurped. But as you can see, of the 5 units formations that just spawned in, only one of them has more than one enemy in it. So Nanadu would not, first of all, would have run out of charges of Flame Shower, but also just would not have been very useful here. So we're in turn 4 here. We're going to Ether Jump our 2 formations to Rakhios. And we are going to swap Aselia with Shia, or Shia with Aselia, however you want to look at that. And we're going to move both of these units south. And we're going to defend with F3. Double swing 2, accurate block 6, and harvest. And basically what we're doing here is we're just using this as an opportunity to sort of heal up some of the damage that we've taken. And this is not a particularly dangerous enemy, so this is a good chance to do this. This is kind of unnecessary, but again, we're trying to sort of conserve our more powerful or more useful utilities. And, you know, we do want to keep our green spirits topped up, so it's a good idea to get into the practice of doing this when you can. I don't think Himika takes any more hits, but, you know, we do want to keep her healed up too if we can. And even with double swing, Himika does pretty good damage here. Triple swing probably would have killed, but triple swing is a much more valuable tool to us, so we're willing to be a little bit slow here if we can. Alright, so Yotia finishes building the Ether Jump client right on time, I might add. So we're going to immediately put her to work. You know, I'm curious. Just to see. Yeah, she could do that in 10 turns as well. Okay. We're going to immediately build an Ether Jump client on Akirice. Because, again, we need to be able to jump here later. Yotia can build the Ether Jump client in 6 turns. So these two are now going to be synced up, believe it or not, which is actually quite nice. It's a little funny. You know, we could just sort of walk, but it is actually faster to Ether Jump to Rosario and is necessary to Ether Jump to Rosario. Before we jump, we're going to swap Asperia with Shia, and we're going to swap Hallion with Aselia. So this is going to be the formation that goes off the Hell Enchilada. Nanadu is very useful, but she needed to go heal anyway. Same thing with Aselia, and then Nelly is probably our least useful blue spirit. And then Hallion, Utica, and Muto are going to be the team that we use for fighting the dragon. This is probably our most defensive team, or our most well-rounded team, because they can kind of do everything, except for AoE. We're going to Ether Jump, Formation 1 to Hiel Enchilada. It's very careful. We need to be very careful here to make sure that we don't send the wrong formation to the wrong place. And it's important that we do this before we act with the other 2 formations, because the events won't activate unless we initiate another action before the end of the turn. So we're going to attack with Formation 3 here. As you can see, the units, or the events are triggering here. And so, like I said, if we had moved Formation 3 or Formation 4 beforehand, those events would not have activated, so we would have lost... that's interesting. We would have lost a turn. We're going to move Formation 3. We're going to attack with Shia, Nymthor, and Himika. We're going to use Leap Attack 2 here. And we're going to use Firebolt. We're going to use our 2 of our least valuable abilities here to finish off this enemy. And Himika is going to do actually probably most of the damage here as well, again. does almost 800 damage there. And then we just move formation 4. Pretty easy. Okay. So, in order to recruit Kuofode, we have to come back after 10 turns. We don't have to sit here and wait for 10 turns. We have to send another formation here after 10 turns. So, instead of just sitting here and waiting with formation 1, alternatively, you could have sent them here and trained them. But again, instead of sitting here and waiting, we're going to move formation 2 north so we don't make any mistakes here. And we're going to ether jump formation 1 back to Rakios. The way that this works is that I think the amount of time that it takes for formation 2 to make it to the dragon and make it back to heal in a Shaletta is exactly 10 turns. So as soon as formation 2 is going to go kill the dragon, and then they're going to trigger the follow-up event with Kuofode, which means that formation 1 can then ether jump back to, what is it, Lemuzerat, and help clear up some of these enemies at some point. They don't do a lot, but they are necessary for this final base down here, so it is kind of necessary to play the game this way, in my opinion. And then we should be able to demolish. Oh, we'll just do it later. We have plenty of mana and plenty of ether, so we don't need to do anything crazy. All right, we're going to attack here. This is a continuation battle here, so we're going to attack here with F3. We're going to attack with Himika, Nymthor, and Aselia. We're going to use triple swing. And we're going to use Ice Banisher 3 here to prevent this ether sink from attacking us. We're just about out of accurate block 5, so we'll stick with accurate block 6 here. We're going to use up Himika's triple swing charges to just kill this enemy. And then we're going to do the same thing again, exact same formation, no changes. We probably would have done enough damage here with double swing, but we needed to do damage to this other blue spirit as well. And then we'll just use strike. Just do some chip damage here. You know, it's kind of interesting. We probably did a huge bulk of our level ups like 10 missions ago. And a lot of those skills and a lot of those units have been pretty competitive. Excuse me. for those missions without having to do a ton of extra level ups. I wonder if there was another way that we could have maybe built up some of those units. And we don't need to go back to refresh. You'll see why. Alright, we're on turn 7. We're now going to Ether Jump Rakios to Kamuzarat, so they can join Formation 3 and Formation 4 as soon as possible. We're going to move Formation 2 closer to where they need to be. And we're going to swap Nimthor with Aselia. We're going to attack with F3 here. So these are not continuation battles, so we do kind of want to be a little bit efficient here. But we also want to use these battles to help us wait a minute. Oh, maybe I didn't need to swap Nimthor with Aselia. Because Formation 3 is supposed to be Shia, Nimthor, Himika. We're going to use Fury here. And we're going to use Firebolt. Let me make sure. Fury. Okay, I think we're good. I just need to delete this line here because this is misleading. We're gonna attack with Formation 3 here. It's gonna be Shia, Nimthor, and Himika. We're gonna use Fury. We're gonna use Firebolt. And we'll kill this enemy before they have the chance to attack us, to counterattack us. So we don't need to worry about the flame laser. And we're going to attack with Formation 4, which is going to be Celia, Aselia, and Orpha. And because this is an all-rounder, we can just nuke them with Heaven Sword. And they won't even get a chance to do a follow-up attack, which is probably the most efficient way to deal with a Heaven Sword enemy, right? Is to just kill them. But unfortunately, they have those pesky green spirits that get in the way. Because we're not taking the follow-up attack, we can afford to take this Ether Sink. It's not a big deal. Pretty easy. It's probably the easiest Heaven Sword enemy we've ever dealt with. And because these enemies don't attack us, we can kind of be greedy here. We're on turn 8. We're going to move Formation 1 up. We're going to move Formation 2 east. We're going to demolish this Ether Jump facility because this unit will just immediately join us in Lirel in the next mission. So we're just going to demolish this here so we get that mana back. We have plenty of mana, but again, mana is finite, so we want to use it as much as we can. We're going to use Formation 3 here to attack, which is going to be Shia, Nimthor, and Himika, which is going to be Fury and Firebolt again. Exact same thing here. I wonder if that needed to be lightning fire. Because... no, okay. I guess that was correct. And then we're going to attack with F4 here. SEO. Heaven Sword 1, Lightning Fire. Don't ask me why I did it in this order, it just works. The me from 30 minutes ago is an enigma. Alright, turn 9. Move formation 1 south. And this is going to be the big fight here against the dragon. So, the big thing that's important to recognize here is that your attacker is going to take more damage than your defender. So, the challenge here is going to be rotating your characters around so that the attacker doesn't die, but your defender doesn't die either, right? That's going to be the big challenge. We're going to start here with Heavy Attack 2, no particular reason why. And we want Utica to use her Dark Impact because if we take too long on this fight, we automatically lose. I think the turn limit is, or the round limit is 20 rounds. So we do want to get as much damage out of these characters as possible. So we're going to use Heavy Attack 2, Accurate Block 3, and Dark Impact here. This is our first round of combat. 30,000 HP is no joke. Nothing to scoff at. I'll go ahead and speed through this because it's going to be a little long. But as you can see, the attacker takes a bunch of damage as well. And then we're just going to do this again. This is round 2. But Hallian can't take another hit, so we're going to do Utica, Yuto, and Hallian. Yuto has enough HP to take another hit. This leaves us with Hallian able to use Harvest to heal everybody up, and then Shrouded Sword 2 for extra damage. This is round 3. And then we're going to do this again, because Utica and Yuto can both take other hits, and we need Hallian to heal up herself so that she can defend again. This is going to be round 4. Now, this enemy is at 20,542 HP, so we're on round 5. We're going to do Yuto, Hallian, and Utica, because Hallian is basically healed up to full at this point. And then we're going to immediately switch back to Utica and Hallian, and we're going to switch to Frenzy. If we had extra levels on Hallian, she would be better at this, but as it is, she's good enough at this now that we don't need to worry about it. Unfortunately, she heals before the enemy attacks, which is a big deal. We're going to use Yuto, Utica, and Hallian again. This is our second usage of Frenzy. And then we're going to switch to Explode, but otherwise keep the formation the same. The fact that we got Explode last mission is a pretty big deal. I think it's a really tremendous damage increase over Frenzy 2, because our mind is so high. And this should be his last usage of Fire Breath. So he's no longer going to be attacking our attacker, he's just going to be attacking our defender now. He has 10,568. We're going to use our final usage of Dark Impact here, just to get that chip damage in. And we're going to switch to this. Use Shrouded Sword with Passion. Because this enemy no longer has Fire Breath, Passion is a lot safer. Otherwise, Passion would really just nuke our attacker. Shrouded Sword 1, because we're out of Shrouded Sword 2 charges. And Eien can take another hit because she's going to heal up for 20%. And then we're simply going to go back to this formation to finish the enemy off. You don't need to do this in this specific order. This is just what I found that worked for me, and because it's a continuation battle, it's not like we're taking extra turns or anything, right? We're heroes. Even though Rashid Tunnel doesn't go anywhere, it's the lifeline of this nation. And we got a bunch of mana for that. I don't know how much we got. Probably like 30,000. Okay. So that was the dragon. Dragons are pretty tough enemies. That dragon specifically, because he didn't have a defensive ability, we did a lot more damage to that dragon than we probably would have otherwise. But I think that strategy is going to be pretty effective against a lot of the other dragons, so we're probably going to maintain this formation for a lot of other fights later. We're going to make sure that these are correct here. We're going to do Aselia, Orpha Chimica, and we're going to do Shia, Asperia, Nymthor here for Formation 3 and Formation 4 respectively. We are not strong enough to face this dragon, nor do we want to, because we're pressed for time. So we're going to come back and fight this dragon later. Far wiser. It's a lot of mana. Yeah, so we don't have time to go for that, even if we were strong enough to do it, and we're not strong enough to do it right now. So, again, going into the formation, moving characters around, coming back, triggered that event to happen. Formation 3, SOH. Fury and Fireball is enough to kill this enemy, believe it or not. Specifically because she puts a resist down on herself, we do a lot of damage with Fireball here. That's a big part of why this works. She does just enough damage. Just 1,300 damage. But we had another charge of Lightning Fire if we needed it. Now, this strategy, I was really excited when I found out this strategy worked, because otherwise I was like not sure how we were gonna do this. But it turns out that Asperia plus Nymthor just doesn't take very much damage here. We're going to use Fury here to kill this enemy, so Flame Laser is not a factor. We're going to use Accurate Block 6, and we're going to use Wind Whisper 3. Wind Whisper 3, I really don't know how this game calculates damage. My understanding is that Heaven's Sword 2 is an attack that targets resistance. Right? So in theory, Wind Whisper shouldn't do anything because Wind Whisper is boosting defense. But it definitely matters because we go from not being able to take this hit at all to being able to take this hit extremely comfortably. So I'm really not sure what to make of that, but you'll see. This is going to heal her up basically to full, and you're going to see she's going to take like maybe 1,000 damage from this, or 1,500. Like, still a lot, but not as much as you would have thought, given the way that this enemy would have nuked us before. This enemy was doing like 5,000 damage before, and now it's doing 1,300. And we're just going to do this again. Fury, Accurate Block 6, Wind Whisper. I was really excited when I found out that this worked. I have historically not used Wind Whisper very much, and maybe that's on me for not knowing how powerful it is, but genuinely, it didn't seem like it made much of a difference most of the time, but man, does it come in clutch for this particular situation. The fact that it heals and protects us is a big deal. And then I'm just going to use this final charge of Impulse Flow here, because we don't need Shia for anything else. So let me just add this in. But this enemy has basically been dealt with. They can't hurt us meaningfully anymore. I don't think Impulse Flow is going to do a lot of damage, but we might as well use it since we have it. Look at that. Now, Power Strike 2. And we're going to start using Ether Sync. I believe that this affects defense. And it should attack this defender, but I guess I don't know that for sure. Ether Sync is another ability that I have historically underused, just because I felt like there's usually better things for me to be doing in the supporter role. But that might change if I get access to other units. Oh, she's just not going to do anything. Okay. That's too bad. Let me just speed this up a little bit. And we're going to move to Lightning Strike here. And let me try... No, Leap Attack's not going to do anything. Okay. That's a bummer. Okay. So we're turn 10 here. We're just going to start moving everybody into position. And as you can see, those two finish building at exactly the same time. So we now have an Ether Jump client in El Sao, and we have an Ether Jump client in Accurice. We're on turn 11. We need to build an ether jump client here at Batibart, because this is 1 turn faster than walking. But I think what I'm going to do first is build a laboratory in Sardbart. And we're going to build an ether jump client with EO here. Initially, I did build an ether jump client here as well because we need it to go up and fight this dragon. But that's going to be something that we do later. I'm more concerned about having a laboratory, and so I figure we might as well build it in one of the capitals, right? So F2, we're going to move west. F1, we're going to move south. F3, we're going to move south. And while these enemies are not that dangerous, we're kind of out of a lot of our attacks at this point. So we're just going to have to wait until Formation 1 meets up with us. And we're going to end turn. Formation 2, move F1 south, move F2 west. Like I said, we need to go to El Sao in order to trigger the mana crystal appearing in the next mission. And we just wait. So now we can demolish this ether jump facility. And I'm going to build another ether converter because I can. I'm going to build 2 more ether converters. I like building things in the big cities. It just feels like it makes more sense. We're still on turn 13. We've demolished this ether jump client. We're going to keep this one. And we're going to keep this laboratory until we build the next tier of laboratory. And we need to keep at least one of these ether jump clients, so we might as well keep El Sao. We're on turn 13. Turn... So we can't go there, but now it's active as soon as we get there. F1 south, and then we just wait. Move F1 south. We're going to ether jump Formation 2 to Rakios. And as you can see, this is going to work out perfectly because we're going to ether jump to heal Enchilada at the same turn that we take Lire Lureel. I'm never going to be able to say that right. Lire Lureel. I can say it like a gringo. But we're on turn 14 here. And we just end our turn.
ラキオスの技術者アカーリア様はゴーファデリュー様のお弟子様だそうです。ヒエレンシレタの町で説得をしてくださるそうです。
Right on time. So turn 15, we're going to ether jump from Rakios to Hielenchileta. Make sure we pick the right place. And then we're going to go to our formation, and we're going to swap Nanadu with Shia. This triggers the trainer event. And I guess we'll put him to work too. We'll build an ether converter in Aselia. Alright, so the reason why we're using Formation 4 here specifically, we've got 3 continuation battles in a row, and we don't have access to Yuto and Utica, which is who we would typically use for something like this. Our defenders are mostly out of defender charges, and our attackers are mostly out of attacker charges. Now, we do have 2 fresh attackers in Nelly and Aselia, but the difference is, or the challenge, is going to be the number of defensive charges. So if we use both Asperia and Nymthor for this gauntlet here, we can make use of their remaining block charges. The big thing that I want to point out, that I think is very important here, is that Nanadu is extremely powerful, but we need to wait until the enemies use up their harvest charges, otherwise we're going to run out of flame shower charges, right? So the big thing that I recommend here is just waiting. Is just waiting. And we want to be very conservative with the way that we use our defensive abilities and the way that we heal. Each formation is going to take multiple rounds of combat, but because they're all continuation battles, we can really just sort of take our time here. If they weren't continuation battles, it would almost be easier. This is one of the few situations where I think having the continuation battles actually makes this very challenging. But we want to make sure that we conserve Nanadu's skill usages, because she's what allows us to defeat these formations on time, basically. And then we're going to do this, I think, one more time. I don't remember. I know he does a lot of damage, but with Wind Whisper, maybe we can survive. We'll see. I do have a backup save for this. This is a calculated risk here, because they're going to have basically 2 crit hits against Asperia. But she has quite a bit of HP, so I'm confident that she can survive it. He reduces my defense. That doesn't help, does it? That's the last usage of Harvest. Okay, yeah, we can definitely survive that. And now that this enemy has used their last usage of Harvest, what we can do is we're just going to wait until for this enemy to use up their charges here. I'm going to go ahead and speed this up. There's no specific strategy for this. I'm just trying to be very, very efficient with the way that I use my attacks. And then we can start attacking. I'm going to use Aselia here to heal one more time. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to do it like this. And then now, I'm going to do this to heal one more time. So that we're close to full HP coming into the, whatchamacallit. This is one of the few times where I've seriously used Nanaru's Firebolt or Lightning Fire. She's pretty much a one-trick pony. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing again here, but this time we're not going to mess around. We want to make sure that we block both hits of this attack consistently. Okay. Just be better safe than sorry here. Use our charge of Flame Shower. Ooh, that hit. That hurt. And let's heal up. And since this enemy can attack twice, or can guard twice, I'm going to use Power Strike 1. And then I'm going to go back to using Power Strike 1 from Nymthor, since she only attacks once instead of attacking twice. So she's going to be better on enemies that don't have defensive skills. I'm a little worried about running out of attacks, but not really. And then we'll just finish them off with a regular strike, which is not very strong, but it gets the job done in this case. Okay. This is our last continuation battle. So we're going to just use Accurate Block here. And we're going to use Wind Whisper 3, and we're going to see how much damage this does. And we just need to survive this soldier here. But since we have 2 charges of Flame Shower, this last formation here should be pretty quick. But it's also probably the most dangerous formation because this soldier does, I think, the most damage out of all the soldiers that we've fought in. Definitely not anywhere near a Heavensward enemy, but we'd actually probably tank a Heavensward enemy better at this point. Oof. Okay. So we should be able to live... probably not. That's scary. So that did about 20. They did about 2600 damage. I might have done this wrong. If we can survive this, we're good. I think we should be able to survive this. Yep, okay, we're good. Flame Shower. Power Strike. This enemy can't attack anymore, this enemy can't heal anymore, so we just have to overpower their defender, and then we win. And then, is she out of attack? She is out of attacks. And she's out of attacks as well, so we're really relying on this last Flame Strike to do a lot here. And let's use our last charge of Firebolt, our last charge of Strike. This should be enough to win. And there we go, we did it. That was pretty grindy. But like I said, there's not much of a strategy to that. You're really just trying to use Wind Whisper to make up for your lack of defensive abilities, and then you're just waiting for the enemy to use their harvest charges before you use Flame Shower. Otherwise, they'll just heal up a lot of the damage and it won't do anything. But that's mission 18. Our Ace of Vesperia, we used 15 turns. We got a bunch of mana from that. 153,000 mana. So we're gonna need those ether refineries. And I'm gonna leave it there. We do have an extra mission after this, but I'm just gonna put that together with the story. So that'll be the end of this video. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.